Coding is hard, especially if you don't know how to code. But I'm here to help. It took me about 3 to 6 hours to make this. And I know a developer who's experienced in this framework would have taken probably a lot less. However, a year or two ago, I would not have been able to do this at all, or like it would taken me weeks of concentrated, trying to jump over all kind of hoops to get it started. But now I feel like I can. I feel like I'm empowered. So hopefully, a lot of you are also in the same position and can use this for any kind of project. So just keep being patient. Don't expect too much, and just keep working. So here's a short explanation of this whole principle of how I work. First, I talk about the idea of what's the first step, talk it with ChatGPT. Then I say, give me the smallest type of code that I could have to actually see it in action, to make it appear on the website. And I check. If it works, great. Let's start to implement it in my project to make sure that project as a whole now works with this new idea. Once it does, I say, hey ChatGPT, we just discussed a whole bunch of things about it, about this idea. I want to know where our project is. Give me a roadmap. Tell me what our app does. I make sure it's still on track, still understands what I want, and then I continue back to a new idea, brainstorming the next feature. Okay, so let's see how I apply this in practice. So we're starting with setup first. Setup is the one most annoying things when you don't know how to code. To really, how do I get started? This is one of the most annoying things that I found. And I've heard good things about Vercel, so I wanted to try it out. And indeed, I did not know what I'm doing. I was just clicking around, but I followed the instructions and I was able to set something up. If you wanted a more simple solution, go to Replit. Replit is amazing. It's even easier to set up and start putting code into this. So as you can see, I'm just following instruction. I'm actually going to ask ChatGPT in a second of what this is and what do you know about it and how do I actually edit code within it. And now I finally had the app running, and here's I'm doing does it work step. Really just editing any file, just trying to understand what the files are, and just editing the file, making sure it appears on the website. And it's like, okay, wow, it's working. Does it work? It does. Very good. Awesome. And now we're at the idea stage. Okay, so now I made sure everything is set up, and I'm saying, I know how to edit the thing. Let's start. All right, I'm developing this application for compliments. Actually, I'm asking for expanding on the idea. Now, please describe this as a product manager. Then I'm asking for additional feedback from all kinds of perspectives. I'm asking for 5 alternative methods to do the MVP, the first version, asking it to evaluate all those versions, those suggestions too. So very often I'm actually going to ask it, not because I want to know, but I'm asking it to make sure it thinks about it and then has more context to evaluate the solution and then give me a better answer in the end. So I'm not reading a lot of these too. And then I'm asking it to get a final method. I check the method if I agree with it, and I go. Cool. So after a ton of actually some errors at the very beginning that I had to troubleshoot, you can see in the time it took quite a while to actually finish this off. But now I have a working version of the homepage with the button, and that does something. I'm like, great, it works. Sweet. Now let's recap. Tell me where we are, what the app is, and so that I really understand, because there was a lot of errors that we were troubleshooting, and I'm not sure if it understands it well. So I read it. If I like what it's saying, may adjust a little bit of what it's saying, but now I'm like, all right, what are the next steps? So I just did the calibration. Now we're back to the idea. I asked it for ideas. I'm like, let's go work out on the homepage. Give me more suggestions again. So I like the ideas. I asked them for practical solutions. Give me some practical solutions on how to do it. And now give me the code for those solutions for the best one. And you can see I did say, please suggest the smallest changes to my code to actually achieve this. This is to make sure that it really works, to make sure the basics work. I get the code, I paste it in, and see if it works. Now you can see it does. It did change the how everything looks. So while it works, it's not perfect. I want to adjust some things. So now I'm asking it to actually assess the design of this website currently, and help me decide, give me a color scheme or something. I'm just fishing for some advice here, and it actually updates the code. Right, you can see we picked a new design, so we implemented it. I felt pretty confident with it, and I said, great. Now let's summarize where we are, because again we went over a bunch of CSS files, and its memory is flooded with that, and I just want to make sure that it still understands where we are. but it generally still goes into the same direction, and I'm glad with this. So I just suggest whatever I want to do next, and we go on. Let's continue with this project. Let's see where we are. Again, calibrating and then starting on the idea. Okay, now I would like user to answer actually 3 questions. So we're making it a bit more complicated, the app. And at this stage, the app is getting a bit more complicated, and you have a lot of different options to choose from. How to store, for example, user content. Do you need authentication or not? So you can really get to a very complicated suggestion for you. So you do have to keep on making sure that it suggests you the simple solution that it still gets you a good customer experience, and you get to try everything out, and you can always improve it later. Okay, so I want to show you something here. I had the idea. I make sure that it works. There are 3 questions in here. I want to ask 3 questions and then give a personalized compliment. Okay, so we got the answers. It does work. Awesome. And then I said, hey, I don't like this yellow button. I just said, hey, I don't like the yellow button. Please fix that. Please fix that is not a great way to ask for help. And if I blindly copied the code and it just stopped working altogether, and I just was lost because I did not read the code. Okay, so I just skipped about 20 or 30 minutes of troubleshooting because I just could not get some stuff to work. Again, it's gonna take a long time if you don't know what you're doing and if you're asleep on the wheel. So at this point, I use one of my tactics where I take the main files. I know that page.js and the module.css are the main files that I really need. All the other files don't really do a thing for my specific case. And I just say, here's a page.js and here's the CSS file all in one prompt, and say, please, why is this not working? Give me multiple solutions and find what's wrong. At this point, I am still very frustrated. It's been a lot of time since I'm just unable to get the questions to just be behaving properly. And it still does not work. But now, I got ChatGPT to essentially give me a methodology of how to troubleshoot. It actually put in all the console logs, and now I get to see like what worked and what didn't work. And now I get to copy the whole thing and say, hey, this is what the output is. What does that mean? Help me understand it. One more tip. So now, once I ask it to prompt it in in giving me like 3 potential causes and then give an evaluation and decision, it actually follows that pattern for a while. And even if I don't ask for it again, it feels like that's how it should answer to all my questions, and actually that's helpful. We're getting at the stage where it really doesn't remember any things anymore, because we troubleshoot it for like 30 minutes. There's a ton of conversations about other things, errors and so on, so it's having difficulty understanding what's what. And even here, it scratched off a couple of things that we never done. But then I kind of align on it, and then we just moved on to a new thing. And here's a public service announcement. It kept on giving me code that did not have the use client at the top, and apparently it is required. I don't know how or why, but even when I told ChatGPT that this is required, it did not agree with me. It's like, nope, this is not required. And whenever I tried this code, it just wouldn't work. So 3.5 definitely does not know that this is required. And you can see by the end of this, I'm now editing the code a little bit, just the CSS at least. I know where everything is. I kind of understand. I changed the colors, so I'm really becoming a developer. And and here I find which part doesn't work, and I'm asking it, hey, this is the part that doesn't work. Please help me understand. And it is because I have gotten familiar with the project, and I think it's awesome that ChatGPT can help me with this. And I want to share with you now a moment where the conversation was probably just so long that the ChatGPT completely lost me, and I was already tired, and I lost you, buddy. I just wrote that I lost you. I mean, like it was hopeless. I basically started a new conversation after that, because like this is just, I could not bring it back to life. It felt like, and starting a new conversation would be a better way to do it. Okay, so this is where I kind of liked the state of the project, and I thought, how do I make this even more complicated now? Let's test the limits a little bit more, and what I wanted to do is do an API call. Now let's introduce OpenAI and make sure that these things are generated by OpenAI, so every time it's really original. And what do you think? let's see how long it took me to do that. Huh? So about exactly 2 hours later, we finally have a compliments that get generated by OpenAI. You can see the folder structure have changed. There are so many things that we needed to change to make it all work. As the project goes larger and larger, it gets more and more complicated for you to communicate the clear status of the project to ChatGPT so that it can keep following along and keep helping you. So you really have to start understanding at this point. You really cannot be asleep on the wheel right now at this stage already. You got to understand which file is doing what to communicate to ChatGPT at this point. And as you see, it has taken about 2 hours, 2 very long hours to just get this to work. And I was probably going to take a couple of hours just to get the stylings and everything correct too. And look, another hour later, now we finally got this actually deployed to Vercel. It's online, the link works, and people can come in and actually use this live app that generates stuff, calls OpenAI, actually generates compliments on demand with AI. The button clicks here. I removed the questions to make it less complicated because it was already taking a long time. And don't forget, you did great. You're amazing. You're amazing. Kipsch extraordinary hip art yo umushkese. You're great. You got it. You are incredible.